they have only been amazing because of the participants, right? We are only as good as the participation in our event is good. So you participants made this event what it was, and we're very proud of having had the honor to have you with us during these 4 days, during this long holiday weekend. You took your time to engage in professional development, to network with your professional learning community, and we truly appreciate that. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the Troika staff for all the hard work they have done, particularly our newest member, Paula, who has really worked overnight 24/7 to take care of the last minute things that needed to be taken care of. Ramon, who was responsible also for technical stuff and making sure all the links worked and all the connections worked. And we're very happy to know that everything worked beautifully. I'd like to thank all the presenters who took their time, spent time, energy, and to research, to prepare their presentations, to deliver their presentations. It's been just amazing. And who else to finish this wonderful event but one of the co-founders of Troika, together with Paulo, Vinicius Nobre, right? Our dearest Vinny. And who else to introduce Vinny but me? You know, Vinny, there was a big battle. You know, everybody wanted to introduce you today. But since I'm older and wiser, no, I'm just kidding, just older, age came first. So my colleagues were elegant enough to give me this opportunity, given our history together and the fact that you are my dear co-author. Vinny is one of the people I admire the most in ELT. He's helped me develop professionally immensely, and it's really, really a great pleasure to be able to introduce Vinny to give this last plenary, this last closing talk. Vinny is the academic director for CNA Idiomas. He has acted as a teacher, teacher trainer, academic coordinator, international examiner, educational manager, and author of pedagogical content in various contexts. Vinny has written textbooks, Project Ace and Huperlink, both through Pearson, and is co-author of 3 methodology books and was a managing partner at Troika. Not only was he a managing partner, but he was a founder of Troika. And I would say that maybe his best methodology book is called Getting into ELT Assessment. I know I'm a little bit suspicious to say this, but a little jabá here won't do any harm. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Vinicius Nobre.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Am I on? Okay. Well, Isabella, thank you so much. This is very moving in like so many different ways. This is a roller coaster of emotions. This was such a beautiful and heartfelt introduction. I feel so privileged to have had the opportunity to meet such incredible professionals like Isabella and the whole Troika gang. Looking at your faces here right now, it warms my heart, and I just want to say how much I love you and I admire each one of you, and also having the opportunity to see so many people who I miss tremendously. I just wish we could be doing this face to face. I hope we can do this face to face as soon as possible. So being invited to close this beautiful event, an event that makes me really, really proud, not only as a co-founder of Troika, not only because of my history with Troika, but also because of the teaching community in Brazil, and to learn that there is an institution that is bringing names like Stephen Krashen and each one of you who presented, and creating this community that can really take English language teaching to a different level to everyone in Brazil. That's incredible. And when I was invited to give this talk, I thought a lot about the topic. I thought a lot about the theme that I wanted to cover, and because this is such a roller coaster of emotions, I decided to share with you um, a, a second edition, let's say, of a talk that is very dear to me called The Road Less Traveled. I don't know if anybody here has already seen the original The Road Less Traveled. If you have, you will certainly realize that this is quite different, but it's still based on the same pillars that the original talk was developed on. And when I first delivered The Road Less Traveled, or I mean, in one of the many presentations that I gave back then on The Road Less Traveled, I got some pretty harsh feedback from a teacher who said that the presentation was too personal and he wasn't interested in my life. He was interested in an academic presentation. So, because of this feedback, I have made this presentation even more personal, because I don't think that there is any kind of academic work that is not a conversation with who we are, what we believe in, and the paths that we have taken. And this is really what this talk is about. It is about what I have witnessed, what I have lived as an ELT professional, and what I have learned. I don't think that any academic presentation can be disconnected from our personal lives. And this is what I have for you. So, when I first wrote The Road Less Traveled, when I first introduced The Road Less Traveled, it started with my sharing something personal, which was a poem that I received from one of my English teachers when I was an exchange student in Canada. I was only 16 and I had been teaching for 1 year. And this teacher, who was originally from India, at the end of my course, she walked to me and she gave me a piece of paper. It was a black elephant shaped piece of paper with a poem on it. And when I first gave The Road Less Traveled, I shared the poem with everyone. And it went a little bit like this. And I ask you to allow me to do the same now. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other one as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, 'cause it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there had warned them really about the same. Both that morning lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Though I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever go back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And this poem, it takes a very special meaning to me today. I wasn't fully aware of what it meant back then, but today I know that teaching is choosing the road less traveled by. And this is me back then, choosing the road less traveled by. I had just published my first series of course books. I was 28. I think I was 28 going on 29. And I wanted to change the world with education. I wanted to choose the path that very few people had chosen. And I believed that teaching chose me, and I embraced it. I have never been a big fan of some of the most dreadful and incoherent things that people say about teaching, such as those who can do, those who can't teach, or if you suck at everything else, you end up being a teacher. I am a proud teacher, and back then I had this big dream that through teaching we could turn the world into a much, much better place. And I was a young boy. I can say I was a young boy with big dreams. And throughout my experience, I have met amazing professionals and some professionals who are not that amazing. But one thing that has always intrigued me was the number of goodbyes that I had to say during this journey. The number of professionals who left the profession, who left the career, and who started doing completely different things. This is something that has always puzzled me. How can we encourage teachers to stay in this road less traveled by and really make a difference in everyone's lives with professionals who are passionate and acknowledged and respected and valued the way that teachers should be? And under the present circumstances, and this is definitely one of the biggest reasons why I chose to talk about the road less traveled again today, but with a different take, is because I feel that after almost 2 years of this terrible, terrible pandemic that we're going through, and a little bit more than 2 years of a government that has systematically bombarded and tried to dismantle education, it is very difficult for us to stay strong and stay confident and hopeful that education is going to be valued and respected and that we are going indeed to see a better place. The dreams that that boy shared are still my dreams, but I understand those who have given up. So the question that I pose with the road less traveled by is, why do some teachers stay in the profession and others leave? What is it exactly that makes some of us stay and fight and try to change things and make others not less noble? I'm not judging. Under no circumstance do I want this to sound judgmental, but others do give up and they do quit. I had my share of feelings of giving up and feelings of quitting. The first time I heard this feedback that the road less traveled was too personal for an academic talk, that's really shook me. Or when I heard, for example, from a teacher that I was really obnoxious and she was outraged by the fact that I delivered presentations in English and not in Portuguese, assuming that every English teacher should understand English. That also terribly hurt me. Or, for example, when I heard that I would have to be very different and take care when going to Rio Grande do Sul because people in Porto Alegre wouldn't really understand me the way I am. And by that, the person who gave me this warning meant by being gay. All of these occasions made me want to stop teaching. On all of these occasions, there was some kind of power, some kind of strength that made me stay. And if you are here today, I can only believe that a similar power fuels you up with the energy and the hope and the drive that we need in order to live from education and defend education. So one of my big beliefs in life and one of the pillars of everything that I do is to think globally. The L is missing. If you got it, congratulations. And to act locally. Um, and when we think globally and act locally, oh, thanks, Carol. Thank you very much. When we think globally and act locally, we consider what we can do within the scope of our actions to change the world. Everyone has the power to change a little bit the world we live in. It is by the small actions that we know we can influence, that we know we have some kind of impact on, that we can change the whole world and the whole globe. So what I'm doing with you here today is acting locally by raising this red flag and trying to share this warning that we need to do something about teaching. And we need to encourage other teachers to stay in the road less traveled by, because we need teachers to be committed to the profession, to stay in the profession, and to continue doing the work they do with all the courage and the pride and the autonomy and the freedom that teachers should be given when performing their duty and their job. So It is not a surprise, though, that teachers quit. Teacher retention has been a major concern since the 1970s. There are lots of articles. This is from 2010, and I'm going to quote some other more recent work that comes to raise this red flag that is often ignored and sometimes just taken for granted. But we do need to discuss teacher retention more passionately and more seriously and more confidently, because there are a lot of things that are going on, especially today, that will pose huge challenges to teacher retention within the next years. If this has been a major concern since the 1970s, nowadays it has to be an even bigger concern because the world is not welcoming teachers the way we should be welcome. Large scale quantitative studies support the claim that teachers leave schools with poor working conditions. So, this is a little bit, and this is from 2011 by Boyd et al. And Ladd as well. And this is what I'm going to focus on today, how the environment that we work in can help teachers stay in the profession and feel that they have the supports that they need not to give up. It is through establishing working conditions, and this is everyone's responsibilities, whether you are a school owner, whether you are a coordinator, a supervisor, or whether you are a colleague. I have seen teachers quit the profession because of the quality of the interactions in a teacher's room. So colleagues play a major role. So regardless of the role you have today, you have the power and the responsibility to make working conditions better and healthier to everyone around you. And just to reinforce what I've just said, again, from 2011 and 2015, researchers have long understood workplace conditions to be critical to teacher self efficacy, satisfaction, and career decisions. I'm going to ask you to allow me to digress a little bit here and expand a little bit on self efficacy, which is one of the pillars of the motivational theories. It is something that I like to talk about very much. And I think that we just need to make sure we are all on the same page when we talk about self efficacy, because I'm going to mention this a little bit more throughout today's talk. And self-efficacy, really, it's a term that was coined by Rother back in the 1960s. Self-efficacy is really about how powerful you feel you are, how competent and how efficient you think you can be. It is this belief that you can develop and you can learn and you can do other things. It is not necessarily an assessment of what you can do now, but it's a sense of growth, a sense of autonomy, a sense of learning potential. And the fascinating thing about teachers leaving the career is that many times teachers leave because they feel incompetent and they feel powerless, and it's their self-efficacy that is being bombarded. They feel that they are not doing what they could be doing, they are not achieving their goals, they are not delivering what they could and should be delivering, either because of the constraints of the environment, because of corporate rules, because of the way that society imposes challenges for the job of the teacher. The number of obstacles and variables is huge, but at the end of the day, self-efficacy is one of the biggest reasons why teachers leave the profession and feel less satisfied as well. So the workplace conditions have to be constantly studied. And as I mentioned, we're not here to put blame on anyone. We're not here to try and find who is responsible for the workplace conditions, but rather to consider how we can think globally and act locally, how we, each one of us, can potentially help the environment to be healthier, more respectful, safer, more productive, and more autonomous for teachers. Research also shows that increases in teacher turnover consistently correspond with decreases in achievement in core academic subjects. And this is why I feel this warning is so urgent. And this is why I feel that we need to start talking about this yesterday, if you allow me. One of the reasons why teacher turnover and teachers quitting the career or changing careers is so problematic is because this is impacting the achievement of our students. In other words, we are preventing the new generations from getting the kind of academic achievement in core subjects that they deserve. If, as a society, we're not engaging in the conversations, the hard, difficult conversations of how we can encourage, empower, motivate, and help teachers stay in the profession, we are turning a blind eye to the fact that this is going to impact everyone's children. And this is everyone's problem. We need to start thinking about how we can decrease teacher turnover so that the relationship built between teachers and students and families and the school can be even more solid, so that the control and the mastery of the academic subjects and the teaching processes can be higher and higher. We all know that when you start a new profession, you still need time to get your bearings. If we're constantly changing teachers all the time, we are preventing the new generations from getting teachers who are more knowledgeable and experienced and more comfortable in what they are doing. Mind you, I'm not saying that a teacher with 27 years of experience will definitely do a better job than a teacher with 1 year of experience. A lot of you have already heard me quote, and here I'm not going to say it was Pennywood because I've seen so many people quoting different people, so I don't even know where the original quote came from. It's not a sentence that I came up with, but I wish I had thought about it. So, but it's one of my favorite quotes, and you've probably heard me say this. So you tell me that you have 20 years of experience. Do you have 20 years of experience or 1 year of experience repeated 20 times? So I'm not advocating here for the teachers with a lot of experience as the powerhouses of teaching. We know that some teachers who have been teaching for 20, 25 years are still doing the very same thing. I'm talking about teachers like you, teachers who will choose to use their holiday time to develop professionally and to share their findings and to listen to other people and to build a community. I'm talking about teachers who have been teaching for 5 years, for 10 years, with a focus on what they can do better, listening to their students and constantly learning and feeling more confident in class and doing an even better job. This is the kind of teachers I'm talking about. So, what we are witnessing today is a very dangerous cycle. We are looking at poor working conditions that will generate less self efficacy and less motivation, a higher turnover, and finally, will decrease learner achievement. And with students who know less, with students who are less motivated, we get teachers who are less, we need teachers who are more prepared or teachers who are less patient. And then it's a snowball process. And then next thing we know, we have a whole generation um, uh, deprived from knowledge and competences and abilities because we didn't take the time to make teachers feel valued, to make teachers have the infrastructure and the resources and the love that we need in order to do our job well. So it's high time we broke the cycle. It is high time we started having the difficult conversations. And it is above all high time we stopped trying to blame others. We're not here encouraging anyone to find who's responsible for what. I am here trying to invite you to start this journey on the road less traveled, to consider what we can do, each individual can do, to create working conditions that are more positive to learning, to create environments that are more conducive to teamwork and collaboration and mutual respect and constant learning. To I'm here to invite you to, join Troika and continue a member of Troika, because this is the kind of strategy that can make working conditions feel better in spite of all the troubles and obstacles that we will face anyway. Strong collegial relationships have a direct correlation to school improvement and success. The more we help each other, the more respectful we are with each other, the more we collaborate and cooperate, the more students and the school will improve and achieve success. There is plenty of research that shows how communities of practice, how collaboration, how teachers creating networks and students helping each other will positively impact everyone. So, one thing that I always like to explore is the idea that for us to develop better working conditions and also better conditions for our students, we need to completely completely ban competition from our educational systems and from our classes. I think that we use competitions and competitive devices very naturally. It is part of our practice. Everyone here has, I'm sure, a fun competition to implement tomorrow in class. But as it turns out, this competition, however small it may be, will negatively impact these collegial relationships. The moment that we allow for competition to be a natural part of what we do, we are also without the intention, without any kind of plan, sometimes even unconsciously, I would say, we are also opening doors for other types of competition, labeling, judging. And this goes for assessment, this goes for games in class, this goes for management of teachers, if you are a management or a coordinator. For us to create relationships that are strong and solid, relationships of cooperation and collaboration that will positively impact school improvement and school success, I personally think we need to choose the road less traveled and do something different from what everybody else is doing. Even though it's very appealing to work with competition and it's very second nature to us because that's what we've seen in our lives and that's what we've done in all of our lives, we have to choose the road less traveled. It is a bit harder, maybe, and it will make all the difference if we look at our students as a community that needs to respect each other and cooperate with each other the same way that we look at our fellow teachers, and we, within the scope of what we do, build relationships that are much more positive and solid and constructive. Excuse me. Hey, is everybody with me? Because I got, since I'm a little nervous and I can't really see everyone. I see Paulinha giving thumbs up, Gabriel Ribeiro saying yes. Oh, wonderful. Deborah, you're here. What an honor. And Carmen and Leandra, Bianca. Now I see all the names when you say yes. I was nervous before. Now I'm really nervous. Okay. So I hope I'm making sense, and I hope I'm not too negative. But I think that we need to, as I said, we need to have the tough conversations. It's not just about celebrating how wonderful we are, or just talking about a new piece of technology or some kind of exciting language presentation scheme. We need to talk about the issues that are going to impact the lives of the future generations. We need to talk about the uncomfortable issues as well. But as I said, I'm not here just to raise the issues and then run away and have a drink. I also want us to discuss what we can indeed do. And there are key components that must be included in programs that aim at improving practitioners' working conditions. I'm going to focus on four dimensions that I understand are vital if we want teachers to feel that they want to stay in the profession. This is my big concern today. If after this talk I can get two of you, maybe three of you, or if I'm ambitious, like five of you, to feel a little happier about what we do and a little bit more motivated and more willing to go back to the classroom and to stay in the profession, believing that we can indeed change the lives of our students and eventually change the world, then my mission today will have been fulfilled. So what are these four dimensions? We need to find orientation and protected time. We need to consider school leadership. We need to talk about professional development, and we need to foster teacher empowerment. And now I'm going to address each one of these dimensions in further detail, hoping that we can have some ideas of our own and implement this successfully. So let's think about time. What are the issues related to time? First of all, the size of our classes. There is no special number here, okay? I'm not saying that a large class or a small class would be ideal or less ideal. What research shows is that it is important for teachers to feel that they have the time to deal with everyone in class with the same kind of energy and with the same kind of support. So the size in this is one of the situations in which size matters, right? I'm sorry about the terrible joke. It's very tiozão Sukita. But size does matter. Uh, and I'm not here defending 10 students or 8 students or 12 students or 30 students for that matter, because each context will be a different context. But it's important for us to consider how much time teachers feel they have to deal with the size of the classes that they are given and assigned. Also, when we talk about time, we're talking about the availability of time for teachers to meet the needs of all their students, both in class and outside of class. So, are teachers available to support students on a more individual basis? Are teachers given the time to be available to support students who might need a little bit more support, a little bit more attention? When we talk about inclusion, when we talk about bringing special needs students into our classes, and I fully support it. I feel completely outraged and offended when somebody who's supposed to represent education in our country has the courage. I don't even know, words fail me. I don't even know what to say, but has the courage to say that students with special needs are going to have a negative impact in other students' learning experiences, and that they should be segregated from society, because education is society. Living in a classroom, exchanging experiences in the classroom and at the school is not just mirroring what students will do in society, it is society itself. So the moment we segregate students because of needs that they might have, and we prevent them from interacting with society, we are making a terrible, terrible, unfair mistake. Uh, but for us to bring these students into the classes and allow them to experiment with society and to feel respected and to develop the abilities and the competences that they will need in order to thrive in the world out there, teachers also need to be made available. Teachers need the time to look at each individual student and support them individually. Teachers also need time to create opportunities to collaborate with their colleagues. I talked a lot about collaboration, I talked a lot about cooperation, and it is vital that teachers be given the time to do this. It is not just a matter of saying, okay, you need to work together, you need to help each other a little bit more. If you're a coordinator, a school owner, or a director, we need to create these opportunities and get teachers to work together. But if you are a teacher and you're just waiting for your coordinator to do this, then you are not doing your share either. I'm sorry to, to be so blunt, but you can't just simply cross your arms and say, my coordinator doesn't give me opportunities to collaborate with my colleagues. This is exactly what you're doing here. If you presented, you were collaborating with your colleagues. If you are making contributions through the chat, you are collaborating with colleagues. So I'm usually, preaching to the converted, but this is what we need to bear in mind. If we are here creating opportunities for ourselves to collaborate with our colleagues, so if every teacher does it, if everybody does what they can within their scope, we will have a much stronger and much more solid community of teachers. So this is really what this is about. And they also need time I mean, related to time, protection from duties that have the potential to interrupt the main purpose of what we do, which is to educate students. A lot of schools, and sometimes even private teachers, they do this unconsciously. We create so much bureaucracy, we create so much paperwork that at the end of the day, half of the time that we have is dedicated to filling charts or, as I know, finding loopholes in the system so that we don't have to do all the work that we need to do. And what I find very ironic is that sometimes I see private teachers creating their own systems and trying to reproduce what their schools used to ask them. And then they don't have the time to study, to participate in professional development initiatives. And we end up making the same mistakes that were being made before. And this is something that we need to bear in mind. How can we make teaching lighter, more bureaucracy free? How can we make things more practical and objective and more based on trust, maybe, without having to monitor so much and so closely, always thinking that somebody is going to break the rules or bend the rules or whatever it is. The second dimension that I mentioned is related to school leadership, right? And school leadership can help the work environment become better, and then as a consequence can help teachers stay in the profession by setting the tone for trust and mutual respect first. I find it very ironic. I don't know if it's a very Brazilian thing or if it's an international thing, but I find it very ironic that in the workplace we tend to be suspicious of people. This is kind of like the status quo of our relationship. We always think that people will not do something, so we create systems to audit and to monitor. The prerogative is that people should not be trusted, when in fact people produce better and they produce more passionately, and they are much more creative and productive when they feel that you trust them. And if we can create an environment that is based on trust and support and mutual respect, without having to implement so many little traps and tools that will audit and monitor what is happening, then that's better. And then you think, okay, Vinny, but I'm not a school leader. Well, maybe you don't have the role, maybe you're not a supervisor or a coordinator, but leadership is not a title. Leadership is attitude. So I'm sure that a lot of people look up to you, and a lot of teachers will come to you for advice or orientation. So how you talk to the new teachers or the experienced teachers will be extremely important and can go a long way. You yourself can set the tone for trust and mutual respect. Is this the kind of professional that you want to be? Somebody who people will always remember and relate to trust and respect, or do you want to be remembered as the professional who was always gossiping and backstabbing people and creating a negative environment filled with doubt and hypocrisy? So I think this is a question we should always be asking ourselves, because the moment we say, well, but I'm not a leader, so I shouldn't worry about it, well, this probably tells me more about the attitude that you have in your workplace than you can imagine. School leadership also establishes high standards for the delivery of instruction. It is understanding that we can only be respected by what we do if we earn this respect. It's not enough to simply go out, and say, I need more respect. This is not enough. We need to create such high standards for the delivery of instructions that the layman will understand that nobody but a teacher can do this. The moment that we are conveniently accepting low standards for what we do, we are just encouraging the tourists to walk into the profession and do whatever they want. We are just, allowing the YouTuber, and here when I say the YouTuber, I'm talking about the YouTuber with no preparation. There are, people from, different walks of life and different backgrounds. I'm talking about the YouTuber who went to Disney World, spent a year there, created a channel, and started shouting, and people just love them. Or the gringo who just self-proclaims themselves the owner of the English language and who think they are better than everybody else just because of the passport that they own. If we don't have high standards in what we do, and if we're not consistently working for higher standards, being more demanding and expecting more from our learners, from our students, and from our teachers and from ourselves, we are just allowing the casualty of the informal teacher to take place and to blossom in our profession, in our field. If you are interested in how we can increase this demand, J- Scrivener and Underhill, they have developed a philosophy, an approach. I don't even know what it's called, but it's called Demand High, and if you're interested, it's totally worth looking at it, right? And it's important that we understand that, and I personally believe it, we understand that historically we always think that students can do less than what they really can do, and what we project towards our students in terms of what they can do is usually a self-fulfilling prophecy, and this is what they will do. So if we look at our students and we have high standards and we think that they can do more, they will do more. Also, school leadership needs to assess teacher performance objectively. Teacher performance needs to be assessed. We need to stop the whining, like, oh, teachers, as I remember, I heard once, teachers should not be measured, teachers should be cherished. Good, no, actually, it was good teachers shouldn't be measured, good teachers should be cherished. And there is a flaw in the sentence, right? If you think about it, because the moment you say good teachers, you're already assessing. So, where do you draw the line? How do you identify who is a good teacher and who's not a good teacher? You need standards. So instead of saying good teachers should not be measured, we should say teachers should be measured by objective, coherent, and logical standards so that we can cherish the good ones and get rid of the bad ones. Because I am positive that everyone here feels uncomfortable when they are being assessed. But also, everyone here, if they could, would rather choose the teacher of their children. So if you want to choose the teachers who are going to work with your children, it's because you understand that not every teacher is the same. It's because you understand that some teachers are just simply more effective than others. Otherwise, just because somebody can call themselves a teacher, you would trust your own children to their education. So it is extremely important that we accept assessment, but that it's done objectively and coherently. Also, school leadership recognizes teachers for their accomplishments. Teachers do so much, and sometimes it's very, very hard for us to see what teachers are doing, but leadership will recognize teachers for their accomplishments. And here, my dear friends, I just want to say that everyone can be a leader, and you are definitely seen as leaders by not a lot of people. This is probably one of the easiest yet most powerful things that you can do, which is to recognize a fellow teacher for their accomplishments, is to go to another teacher and give them a big hug or send them a lovely message saying how much you admire what they do, stating how positive you think the work that they are doing is, and celebrating something that they've accomplished. These are the small things that make us want to stay in the profession. And everybody here can be considered a leader on different occasions. Finally, oh no, actually, there are two more dimensions. Professional development. Professional development can only happen if resources and time are provided. The more resources you have, the more time you have for professional development, the better. But don't expect people to give it to you. And if they don't, use this as an excuse or as a crutch. Create your time, because your career and your students, that's your responsibility, but nobody else's. So leadership and schools and educational systems, they need to give you resources and time. But if they don't, too bad. Take the bull by the horns, be responsible for your professional development, because 10 years from now, you're going to look back and you're going to regret having waited for somebody to give you more time or more resources. Also, professional development needs to be data driven. It can happen by chance. I mean, just like, oh, I think we need help with young learners. Why? Oh, because teachers like young learners. Let's have a workshop about songs. Why? Oh, because students like songs. This is too informal. Professional development needs to be chosen, selected, and structured based on data regarding the needs of the students, the needs of the teachers, the gaps, the opportunities, the context. Everything can be turned into data, but you need to have indicators in place in order to make informed and coherent decisions. Also, professional development needs to be aligned to school improvement. It needs to cascade down to learners. It is completely pointless to have teachers hopping all around like happy bumbies if students are not getting any benefit from it. Like, oh, teachers are really happy and fulfilled with professional development. And has it impacted the learning outcomes? Well, we don't know. So I'm sorry, this is not professional development. This is entertainment. This is something else. If teachers are happy and students are learning more, we have professional development. If teachers are happy and students are still in the same place, we're just wasting time. Also, professional development needs to be designed to meet the differentiated needs of the teachers. I often see teachers being put together in a room, no matter how long they've been teaching, which certificates they have, what kind of profile they have, and getting the same kind of workshop, the same kind of training. First, professional development is not just training courses, it's not just workshops, it's not just certifications. There are dozens of other things that can be done for professional development. And the more customized and the more tailored these things are, the more successful they will be. So we need to learn who our teachers are, if you are a coordinator or a school director, for example, and we need to know who we are if you are a teacher. Remember that in Donald Freeman's framework for professional development, the CASA framework, awareness is a very, very important pillar, a very, very important dimension for professional development. So you need to know who you are, what you need, what your gaps are, what you are doing well. So this level of awareness shouldn't come only from the school or the school leaders. It needs to come from within. We need to know what our needs are and differentiate our very own professional development path. Um, Also, professional development should allow teachers to work with colleagues in an effort to refine their practice. Collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Carol asks, do you have any ideas on what institutions should do to promote that in training empowered teacher identities? Oh, Carol, I think that this, you know, it's a combination of everything that I'm saying, really, because the moment that you have positive working conditions and the moment that you have everyone thinking about how to improve the working conditions for teachers to stay, you end up, helping the construction of empowered teacher identities. I think there are other things as well that can be done, but I would say that having a positive working condition is vital for this construction to happen. And last but not least, teacher empowerment. Maybe, Carol, this will give you some other ideas as well. Teacher empowerment is about recognizing teachers as educational experts, not simple technicians, not robots that are reproducing guidelines or teachers' books, but rather people and professionals who have studied to do what they do, who can make decisions, who are experts in the field. And this is society, the families, the students, we ourselves, and the institutions. For us to foster teacher empowerment, teachers also need to be trusted and relied upon to make decisions about instruction and other educational issues. We need to listen to the teachers, and we need to give teachers the opportunity to say what works best. Oh, but teachers don't always know, so make them know. Help them develop what they need in order to be autonomous and in order to be independent in the decision making process. And finally, teachers need to be involved in school improvements. There has got to be channels of direct communication amongst teachers and supervisors, teachers and coordinators. We need to be constantly listening to our colleagues, but also to our leaders and vice versa. For us to develop teacher empowerment, we need to have everyone involved in this process and aiming at the same goal. So all of this is aimed at helping us have better working conditions. And all of this was researched and developed before the pandemic. But then we were faced with this big monster that has made education flip upside down and inside out. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have felt a bit lost, and some of you might have wished that you had chosen a different career or might have thought about leaving the career. I know that on occasions I did. But if you're still here, it's because you chose otherwise. So I'm going to share a little video with you that I hope might illustrate a little bit what this last year has been to some of us, maybe all of us.
Vinny, we can't hear you when you mute your microphone.
Okay, sorry, Bruno. Thanks. Can you hear now?
Yes, we can.
I'll go back. Sorry. And I don't think it's just America's educators. I think it is Brazilian educators as well. And if we made it so far, we can still go, very, very, very far. And what we need to remember is that teachers with greater self efficacy are more persistent and resilient when faced with challenges and setbacks. Through the whole pandemic drama, the whole pandemic, challenge, teachers who felt that they were efficient, who felt that they could do it, who had people around them who made them believe that they had the power and the tools and the competence to go through this, they did better. They were more persistent and they were more resilient. Teachers who didn't have this kind of support were not. And there is evidence of strong positive associations between teacher self efficacy and student achievement, student motivation, and students' own sense of self efficacy. So at the end of the day, it is really about the students. I talk about teachers because when I talk about one teacher and I find a way to help this one teacher, I feel that I am helping hundreds of students. So I think that it is really, really important that we bring teachers into the spotlight a little bit more, because talking about teachers is talking about students. And whoops. Okay. And just to wrap up what happened during the COVID-19 um, saga, supportive working conditions in schools played a critical role in helping teachers to sustain their sense of success. It was the working conditions, it was the leadership and the community and the collaboration that made teachers feel that they had success, and hence made teachers want to continue in the career. Teachers were less likely to experience declines in their sense of success when they worked in schools with strong communication, targeted training, meaningful collaboration, fair expectations, and authentic recognition during the pandemic. All of these are elements that we need to take on board and continue focusing on after the pandemic. We need to strengthen our communications, target training towards what teachers really need and want, make collaboration more meaningful, have expectations that are realistic and fair, and recognize teachers' initiatives and teachers' work in an authentic way. Schools can begin by developing systems for strong communication. They can begin by recognizing teachers' efforts so that teachers do not feel isolated, can set expectations for work, ask teachers what training they want and they feel they need, and design structures for formal and informal collaboration. And then if you're there thinking, yes, that's what schools should be doing, I urge you to remember the quote I shared with you. Think globally, but act locally. Look at this list and think about how you can be an agent of change in your own context, how you can help with communication, how you can recognize your fellow teachers, how you can make your colleagues understand what is expected from their work, how you can get back to the leaderships and help them understand the kind of training that you need, or can feel independent enough to go after the training that you feel you need, and how you can foster the kind of formal and informal collaboration to make teaching a little less stressful after everything that we've been through. Because I feel that I have always been very, very, very lucky. Because when I started teaching, I didn't know what I was doing, but it was all just a big accident. But today, I look at this and I say, yes, that totally depicts me. Real teachers just want to make a difference in the lives of their students. But too often, we find ourselves in contexts where we feel isolated, we feel ineffective, we feel left alone. When this happens and teachers cannot achieve a sense of success, this is when we leave. We need to work together to help teachers stay. And if I have chosen to stay in the career for 27 years now, 27 long years, it's because I felt people who believed in me and who made me feel that I can, who made me develop the sense of self efficacy that I need to survive and be resilient when the waves are too high. This, I told you that I was going to make this even more personal. This is something that I haven't really shared with anyone. It is the first time that I was featured in a newspaper. This is a local newspaper from Santos. I'm originally from Santos. I was born and raised there. And when I was 28, I launched my first series of books, the ones that you saw. And the gossip people in Santos, the fofocation, a coluna da fofoca, thought it would be interesting to interview me, and they featured this interview. And then the other day, as I was going through my stuff, I found this. The interview is nonsense. It's really, really, I mean, honestly, it's quite kind of embarrassing. But there is this one quote, something I said when I was 28 years old, 13 years ago, that still resonates with me. And I feel so very lucky to have met people in my career and in my life who never doubted me and who actually made me believe that I could do this. Because all I wanted was to collaborate to professionalize English language teaching in Brazil. And this is still what I do. And it's still the legacy that I want to leave behind. And if I think that I can do part of it, is because I have people like you around me. My self efficacy is fostered because I do not feel alone. And sometimes we do feel a bit alone, even when surrounded by people in our job and in our career. We walk in and out of classrooms, we see hundreds of students, but sometimes we feel very isolated in the teacher's room. Please don't feel isolated, and don't make anyone feel isolated. Find your community. Find people who believe in the legacy that you want to leave behind and embrace them. We need to stay in the profession because two roads diverged in the wood, and we, together, we took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Thank you all very, very much.
Well, I'm kind of speechless. I'm going to compose myself. And well, thank you, Vinny, for helping us find, well, at least stay in the track of the road less traveled. That was incredibly meaningful. And having shared, on a very personal note, having shared so much of your life as a business partner, as part of your staff, and having observed you throughout the years, it's really beautiful to see that you always stay true to your words, and that you definitely walk your talk. And that was I can't think of any better way for us to wrap up this Troika experience. It was incredibly moving. I can see that some people are actually weeping, which is something quite challenging to achieve if you are online. So yeah. Okay. So everyone, thank you very much for staying with us for the past 4 days. It's been an amazing ride. We've had over 150 hours of content, and I'm sure we've just had the highlight of our conference. And we are looking forward to having you around in our events. And as a Troika member, if you're not one yet, so make sure that you check our website. And I'd like to thank again Vinny for allowing us to share this moment with him. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I can only thank Troika and each one of you for allowing me to pursue what I love. I hope you enjoyed the conference, and I hope we stay in touch. You can find me on Instagram, and if you have any feedback, I would love to hear it. Just keep dreaming, keep educating, keep changing the world. Thank you very much. Bye.